Elemental, the new Pixar movie, came out in theaters, and unlike most people, I was actually pretty excited about this movie. First of all, the animation for this movie is really gorgeous, and I wanted to see that play out motion. And I was not impressed by the first teaser, but I feel like that's fine. I didn't really think it was like anything getting upset about. I was just like, all right, let me see how this plays out. But then when I started hearing some of the statements made by the creative team involved and seeing some of the trailers and the metaphors that they were going for, I suddenly got more excited. This metaphor of like races, basically. Elements don't mix. You could chase that to races don't mix. And that's kind of the story. And it's got some interesting themes and ideas to it that I thought seemed kind of clever. So I want to go check this movie out. And I guess the theme of the two movies I'm reviewing right now, The Flash and this, is that disappointment. I was disappointed in this movie. I think that this movie is just kind of boring. That's what's weird about it. So this movie is like a rom-com with themes of like immigration and mixed race relationships and all kinds of themes that I will straight up praise that element of the movie. You literally see the main girl, the main fire girl, I think it's Ember, whatever, come across the ocean with their family and they immigrate to Element City. And that was really beautiful and really well put together stuff. There's a lot of talk of traditions and elements like that. Elements. I did not intend that pun, but that's funny. Anyways, I thought that was all really solid. The animation was gorgeous, and a lot of the voice work was really good, as it is usually with Pixar. And I thought the message is something important to kids because, you know, I'll tell you this. I had someone tell me who used to live in the South that they still teach people there that in schools and just church in general that it's just not appropriate for a white girl and a black kid to get together, right? And it's just like this is what they still teach, you know. This is issues still going on in our country. These messages of immigration are still things that we should be discussing and talk about, especially to children. And it's also not upfront and in your face to where you'll roll your eyes at it. It's really, I don't think it's necessarily subtle at all, but it's also not something that the kids will probably pick up, but when they get older, they'll come to understand things, and it may help them understand things now, if that makes sense. I thought it was really well done. Just where I get bored by this movie is I don't really care about Wade. I actually kind of enjoyed Ember's character trying to live up to expectations with their family and stuff, but Wade is just kind of like this dude who's overly emotional and cries a lot, and that was kind of the joke with this character. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but it's not that funny. And that's the real thing about this movie. It's a rom-com with Pixar characters, which is really bizarre. But the comedy wasn't that strong, which is actually something that's kind of an underrated part of Pixar movies. Pixar movies usually have a strong sense of humor where there's a lot of good adult bits and bits for younger children to get to. Because the animated movies, to an extent, do have to be a little bit funny and have good humor. And this one just didn't. It didn't really grab me. I think even the audience that was watching the movie was kind of bored by it, unfortunately. I think they weren't too engaged by it. It wasn't an awful movie. I would say it's better than a lot of Pixar movies like Brave or the Cars movies and things like that. But at the same time, it's not strong enough to where I would recommend seeing this in theaters, which is really unfortunate because Pixar is having a lot of issues with theaters, and I almost want to tell you go to the theater to support this. I think if you love animation, you absolutely should because it's a solid enough movie. But at the same time, I feel like Disney Plus is the best route for this. And I think it's part of the problem too with these Pixar movies though, is they're all kind of looking the same. Yeah, I watched this movie and I went, wow, this looks pretty, but it still felt very samey. Meanwhile, you got Puss in Boots, you got Into the Spider-Verse, these way smaller budget animated movies that look significantly better, and they're more innovative and different. And that's just where we're at with Pixar. They're kind of playing it safe. Disney Animation too. and they're not doing a great job of making these movies work, which just really fucking sucks.